The morning began before the sun came up. The small room was still dark and Kita. Young man lay awake on a thin mattress, staring at the ceiling. His body felt tired, but his mind would not rest. He listened to the sound of traffic far away and the hum of a broken fan. This was how most days started for him. There was no alarm clock because he could not afford one. He woke up by habit, and worry had become his closest companion. He slowly sat up and rubbed his face. His hands were rough from work and small cuts covered his fingers. He worked a job that paid little but demanded everything. The job was his only way to survive. Missing one day could mean losing it also. No matter how tired he felt, he always showed up. He stood up and washed his face with cold water. The mirror on the wall was cracked, but it showed him enough. Thin face, tired eyes, and a quiet strength that had been tested many times. He did not complain out loud. He believed complaining did not change anything. What mattered was effort and endurance. He put on his worn clothes and stepped outside. The air was cold and smelled of dust and fuel. The street was already awake. People rushed past him, each lost in their own struggles. No one noticed him, and he did not expect them. Life had taught him that most people were invisible until they were useful. The place where he worked was a long walk away. Could not afford transport, so he walked every day. As he walked, he thought about his responsibilities: rent, food, electricity. And the money he sent to help a sick relative there was never enough left over. But he kept going because stopping was not an option. When he arrived at work, the building looked the same as always: cold walls, bright lights, and rules written everywhere. Rules about time, behavior, and what mattered most to the company. People were expected to follow them without question. Kindness was not listed anywhere. He started his shift quietly. He did what he was told and stayed out of trouble. He knew that one mistake could cost him his job. Others had been fired for less. That fear stayed with him every minute. As the day went on, he noticed the usual faces come and go. Some were polite, others distant. Most were in a hurry. He learned long ago not to expect kindness from strangers, but he always offered it anyway in small ways. Nod, a soft word, a patient moment. These things cost nothing. Late in the day, when his legs were aching and his head felt heavy, he noticed something different near the entrance. An elderly man stood alone. The man looked confused and unsteady. His clothes were clean but old. His hands trembled as he leaned on a walking stick. People passed by him without stopping. Some looked at him briefly, then looked away. The young man felt something tighten in his chest. He tried to ignore. I've reminded himself of the rules. Employees were not allowed to leave their station. Helping people outside of assigned duties was discouraged. Time was money, but the elderly man did not move. He looked lost. His eyes searched the space as if hoping someone would see him. The young man kept glancing over. Every time he did, the feeling grew stronger. It was not fear or pity, it was responsibility, he told himself. Someone else would help. Security staff were nearby. Surely they would notice. But minutes passed, and nothing happened. Elderly man shifted his weight and nearly fell. That was when the young man could not stay still anymore. He stepped closer. Slowly, his heart beat fast. He knew what he was doing could get him in trouble still. He spoke gently to the elderly man. He asked if he was all right, though. A voice that answered was weak and tired. The man said he was not sure where he was supposed to go. He said he felt dizzy and cold. The young man looked around. No one was paying attention. He knew he should walk away, but his feet would not move. He offered the man a place to scythe, brought him water using his own break time. He listened as the man spoke about being alone and confused. As they talked, the young man forgot about the rules. He forgot about time. All he saw was a human being in need. He thought about his own grandfather who had passed away years ago. Years ago, he remembered how easily people ignored the elderly. That memory hurt. The elderly man thanked him softly. His eyes filled with emotion. Said not many people stopped anymore. The young man smiled politely. He said it was nothing, but inside he felt something shift. And seen by them, someone was watching. Supervisor noticed the young man away from his station. The look on the supervisor's face was not kind. The young man did not notice yet. He was focused on helping the elderly man stand safely. His break ended. He helped the man find a safe place to rest. He gave him directions and waited until he felt stable only. Then did the young man return to his position. His heart felt lighter, but his stomach was tight with fear. He knew the consequences might come. Even then, he did not regret what he had done. He believed that some things mattered more than rules. He did not know that this moment would follow him for the rest of his life. As the shift ended, he walked home under a darkening sky. He replayed the moment again and again. He wondered if kindness was still worth it in a world like this. He did not have the answer yet, but his story had already begun, and it was far bigger than he could imagine. The young man returned home feeling exhausted. The walk seemed longer than usual. Every step reminded him of what had happened earlier in the day. The elderly man had been confused and fragile. Helping him had felt like the right thing to do, but a shadow of worry hung over him. He entered his small room and placed his bag on the floor. The room smelled faintly of damp cloth and old wood. He sat on the mattress and ran his hands over his face. The muscles in his body ached from the long day, but the ache in his chest was heavier. He wondered if he had made a mistake. The young man thought about the rules he had broken. He had left his post without permission. He had spent time helping someone outside his job. It was not allowed. He tried to tell himself it was nothing serious, but he could feel the weight of potential consequences. The memory of the supervisor watching him was clear. The frown on the face haunted him. He sat silently thinking about the elderly man. He had seemed lost his eyes, had looked at the world with fear and sadness. The young man remembered how fragile the man had appeared. Thought about how quickly life can change for someone, how easily people are left alone, how much it matters to have someone stop and care. That evening, the young man tried to rest, but sleep was hard to find. Every sound from outside made him tense. Every shadow seemed to remind him of the decision he had made. He knew tomorrow could bring trouble. He feared what the supervisors would say. He feared losing the only job that kept him going. The next morning, he woke before sunrise. Again, his routine was the same. Dressed quickly and left the room. The walk to work felt heavier this time. Every step reminded him of the previous day. He wondered if he would be confronted. He wondered if the elderly man was safe. He arrived at work. He noticed the usual bustle, people moving quickly as if they were racing against time. The young man tried to focus on his tasks. He did not want to attract attention. He did not want to risk anything further, but the supervisor called him to the office. The young man took a deep breath and walked slowly. The office was small and cold. The supervisor sat behind a desk with papers in front of him. He looked serious. The young man stood quietly. He knew the conversation would not be easy. The supervisor spoke first. Asked why the young man had left his station, why he had spent time helping someone outside the duties of his job. The words were direct and harsh. The young man tried to explain calmly. Spoke about the elderly man and his condition. He spoke about how the man needed help. The supervisor listened, but his face did not change. Rules were rules. The young man could see that. The explanation mattered little. The consequences were clear. The young man was being fired. He felt the words hit him like a blow. His stomach twisted. His chest felt heavy. All the fear from the previous day came back. He tried to stay composed. He asked if there was anything he could do, anything that would allow him to keep his job. The supervisor shook his head. The decision was final. Young man nodded. Slowly he left the office quietly. No words were left to speak. Walking out of the building, he felt the weight of the world. His job was gone. The money he relied on would stop. Bills would pile up. The small help he gave to his relative would end. He felt fear and shame. He had done the right thing, but it had cost him everything. The young man walked through the streets without a clear destination. The city felt larger than ever. People moved past him without notice. Felt invisible. He thought about the supervisor and the rules. He wondered if the world truly valued kindness. He wondered if helping others was worth the pain. He passed by shops and cafes. People laughed and spoke. Life went on around him. He felt disconnected. He had no energy to speak to anyone. He just walked. His mind replayed the moments of helping the elderly man, the gratitude in the man's a fragile voice that had thanked him. That memory was the only warmth he carried that evening. He returned to his room. The room seemed smaller than usual. He sat on the mattress and stared at the floor. He did not know what to do. He felt lost. His future felt uncertain. He feared the days ahead. He feared not finding another job. He tried to sleep again, but the mind would not rest. He thought about the elderly man. He hoped the man was safe. He hoped someone would care for him if he needed help against them. Young man realized that even though he had lost his job, he had not lost his principles. He had not lost the courage to do what was right in days past, and he searched for work. He sent applications and visited businesses. He was met with polite refusals and empty promises. The money in his pocket was running low. Food became scarce. Day was a struggle, but he kept moving. He kept trying. During this time, he often thought about the elderly man. He remembered the way the man had looked at him, not with fear, but with trust. He remembered the quiet gratitude and the voice of those memories gave him strength. They reminded him that kindness mattered even if the world seemed unfair. One day, while walking through a crowded street, he noticed a familiar figure. The elderly man was there, dressed neatly and walking with confidence. He looked at the young man and smiled. The young man felt a mix of surprise and relief. He did not know what to say at first. He was overwhelmed. The elderly man approached and spoke gently. He asked how the young man was doing. He thanked him again for his help. The young man felt a lump in his throat. He realized that the decision he had made, the choice to help the elderly man, had not gone unnoticed. The elderly man explained that he had been lost that day, that he had been struggling in ways the young man could not imagine. He said the young man's kindness had reminded him of hope, of the goodness that still existed. It had been looking for him to show gratitude and to offer help in return. The young man listened carefully. Did not expect anything. He was still worried about his own struggles, but the words of the elderly man brought a strange comfort. Realized that even in hardship, good actions were remembered. They could open doors in ways he had not imagined. That day marked the beginning of a change. The young man felt a mix of relief and curiosity. He wondered what the elderly man had planned. He felt the weight of his previous struggles, but he also felt a small spark of hope, feeling he had not experienced in a long time. As the sun set and the city lights turned on, the young man walked home slowly. He thought about the days to come. He thought about the loss of his job and the unexpected reunion with the elderly man. He felt that life had not finished with him, that perhaps a new chapter was about to begin. Reached his room and sat on the mattress. He thought about what had happened, about choices and consequences, about kindness and fear. He realized that even when the world punishes doing what is right can lead to unexpected blessings, and he was ready to see where this path would take him. The young man woke up early as usual. The room felt colder than before. He pulled his thin blanket closer and looked at the small window. The sky was pale with early morning light. The city was quiet except for the distant sounds of vehicles. He got up slowly and rubbed his face. His body ached from days of hard work and worry. Had no job now, and each day felt heavier than the last. The small amount of money he had saved was almost gone. Food was scarce, and he worried about the bills. Each time he walked through the streets, he saw people moving with purpose, people who had jobs, money, and security. He felt invisible against them. Weight of his loss pressed down on him. He tried to search for work, but nothing seemed possible. Businesses turned him away politely or did not respond at all. The rejection felt endless. He had skills and willingness to work hard, but the world did not make space for him. Each door that closed made him question his choices. He wondered if helping the elderly man was worth the pain. Days turned into nights with little change. He began to feel hopeless. He thought about giving up. Maybe it was better to forget about kindness. Maybe the world only rewarded those who followed rules and looked out for themselves. But deep inside, he knew he could not live that way. There was a small voice in his chest reminding him of what he had done. He walked through crowded streets thinking about the elderly man. He remembered the trust in the man's eyes, the fragile voice that thanked him for something so simple. That memory gave him warmth even as hunger and worry pressed down on him. Even as rejection piled up, he could not forget the act that had cost him his job. One day, while wandering near the market, he saw the elderly man again. The man looked healthier and stronger than before. He was walking with a confident stride. The young man could not believe his eyes. He had not expected to see the man again so soon. The sight brought a mix of surprise, relief, and curiosity. Elderly man smiled and approached slowly. He spoke in a calm voice, He asked how the young man was managing. He thanked him again for the help he had given. The young man felt emotions he could not name. He had been struggling and lost for days. Seeing the man brought a strange comfort. The elderly man spoke of his life, of the struggles he faced. That day he admitted he had been lost and weak. He explained that the young man's help had given him hope. It reminded him that people still cared. It reminded him that even small actions had power. The young man listened quietly. He did not expect anything. He was still lost in his own struggles. But the elderly man's words sparked a flicker of hope. Feeling he had not felt in weeks, he realized that the kindness he had shown was remembered. It had made a difference in ways he could not see before. The elderly man offered guidance. He asked the young man to meet him later in the day. He said there might be ways to help. The young man was cautious. He did not know if he could trust someone after so many disappointments. He wondered what kind of help the man could offer. Despite the uncertainty, he agreed to meet. He prepared himself and walked through the streets with a careful mind. The city seemed different this timeless, cold, less hostile. The memory of the elderly man's gratitude gave him strength. Reminded himself that kindness could return in unexpected ways. When they met, the elderly man explained his situation. He was a respected figure in the community. He had been facing a difficult period. He was impressed by the young man's courage and empathy. He saw qualities that were rare in the busy world. He wanted to give the young man an opportunity. The young man listened with disbelief. He had been struggling and rejected by the world. Now here was a chance that seemed impossible. He felt fear and hope at the same time. He had no idea what would come next. He did not know if this opportunity would last, but he felt a strange sense of possibility over the next days. They met often. The elderly man explained the opportunities he could provide. Not charity but work, not handouts but trust. He wanted the young man to learn and grow, to take control of his life again. The young man felt cautious optimism. He remembered the days of struggle and loss, but he also remembered the warmth of gratitude and trust. He knew that his life could change. He had been punished for kindness, but it had not ended. It had led him to this moment. He started small tasks for the elderly man, learning how to manage responsibilities, understanding the value of trust and hard work. Each task built his confidence. Each day reminded him that the right choice mattered, even when it seemed to bring only pain. The young man reflected on his journey. He remembered leaving his job to help someone, the fear and shame he felt when fired, the hopelessness of days without work, the kindness and gratitude of the elderly man. It all connected in a way he could not have predicted. Slowly he began to see a future where effort and empathy could coexist, the future where he could survive and grow, future where helping others could be rewarded. The fear and pain remained, but hope had room to breathe. Even when he returned home at night, exhausted from work and thought, he felt a small sense of purpose. The world was still harsh, but it had openings. Kindness he had shown had not gone unnoticed. It had created a bridge to something better. The young man realized that life was full of challenges, full of moments where decisions had consequences, but the courage to act with compassion could change outcomes. It could open doors even when the world seemed closed. He understood that the path forward would not be easy, but it was possible, and it was his to take. As he lay on the mattress at night, he thought of the elderly man, of the small act that had changed everything. He thought of the lessons he had learned about kindness and courage. He realized that even in moments of loss, there was hope. Even in punishment, there could be opportunity, and that was enough to keep moving. The young man woke early with a sense of anticipation. Remembered the meeting with the elderly man from the day before. The man had promised to explain more about his life and opportunities. The young man was nervous. He did not know what to expect. City outside was waking slowly. Sounds of distant traffic and chatter filled the air. Walked carefully toward the place they had agreed to meet. His mind was busy with questions. Who was this man really? Why had he offered help? Could this opportunity be real? He had been disappointed so many times. He did not want to hope too much. When he arrived, the elderly man was waiting calmly. He smiled softly and gestured for the young man to sit there. There was a quiet confidence in his posture. The young man could feel that this was different, not just kindness, but something deeper, the man began to speak. He told the young man that he had not been helpless that day in the streets. He had appeared weak and lost, but in truth he was someone of influence, a person with experience and knowledge. He had been struggling in a personal crisis, and the young man's kindness had reminded him of hope and trust. The young man listened carefully. He could hardly believe what he was hearing. Had thought the man was a stranger in need. Now he realized that the man had chosen to reveal only what he needed at the moment. That small act of empathy had created a bond, a connection that would change the young man's life. An elderly man explained that he had been watching the young man's situation. He saw his honesty, integrity, and willingness to help. These were qualities not often found in the busy world. He said that he could offer more than work. He could offer guidance, mentorship, and a chance to build a future, though. Young man felt emotions he could not name: relief, gratitude, disbelief, and cautious hope. He had lost so much recently, and yet here was an opportunity that seemed impossible. He realized that his life could turn around, but he also knew it would require effort and trust. The elderly man continued, spoke about the importance of character and patience, about the value of helping others without expecting reward. He explained that life often tested people, but those who remained true to their values could find unexpected doors opening. He offered the young man a position to work closely with him to learn and contribute. The young man accepted quietly. He felt nervous, but determined. He knew that this could be the chance he had been waiting for. He knew that he could not waste it. The elderly man assigned small tasks, at first simple responsibilities, that required focus and integrity. The young man performed each one with courage. Days passed. The tasks became more complex. Learned how to manage schedules, organize work, and make decisions each day. He grew more confident. The elderly man guided him patiently, offering advice and support without pressure. The young man realized that he was learning not just skills, but values. He thought about the day he had helped the man, the fear he had felt of losing his job, the anxiety of breaking rules, and the satisfaction of doing what was right. Now he understood that moment had been a turning point, had led him to this opportunity, had shown him that kindness mattered. Evan, when it seemed to bring only trouble, the young man worked diligently. He took pride in every task. He made mistakes, but learned from them. The elderly man encouraged reflection and improvement. He explained that growth was not just about success, but about understanding and patience. The young man felt a new sense of purpose. He also began to meet other people connected to the elderly man. He saw how respect and trust influenced relationships. He noticed how integrity could open doors that talent alone could know. Felt motivated to continue learning and contributing. The world seemed less harsh. The path forward seemed clearer. Evenings were spent reflecting on his journey. He thought about his life before losing the job, the struggles of survival and rejection, the courage it took to help a stranger. He realized that each step had led him to this moment. He felt gratitude for the lessons learned, for the hardships endured, and for the kindness shown. Young man began to see the possibilities of the future. Imagined himself growing with guidance and trust. He imagined helping others as he had been helped. He understood that success was not just wealth or position. It was about integrity, effort, and connection. And he was beginning to live that reality. The elderly man continued to guide him. He shared wisdom about patience, perseverance, and empathy. Explained that life often demanded courage to act rightly. Even when uncertain, the young man felt inspired. He realized that the true opportunity was not just work. It was learning how to live with honor and compassion. The young man began to take initiative. He anticipated tasks and sought ways to contribute. He shared ideas and helped solve problems. The elderly man noticed and praised his effort. The young man felt a deep sense of accomplishment. He had moved from fear and loss to trust and purpose. He thought often about the choice that had started everything, helping a man who appeared weak and lost. That single act had cost him his previous job, yet it had opened doors beyond what he could imagine. He understood now that kindness and courage could reshape destiny. As weeks passed, the young man grew confident. He learned skills he never thought he could. He built relationships with trust and respect. He felt a sense of belonging and meaning. He realized that the harsh world he had feared could also be a place of opportunity. One evening, he walked through the city streets, The memories of struggle lingered, but they were tempered with gratitude and hope. He understood that life tested people in many ways, but those who acted with integrity and empathy could find guidance and support. The young man felt ready for the challenges ahead. He looked forward to the future with determination. Knew that the path would not always be easy. He knew that hard work, patience, and kindness would be needed, but he also knew that his life had been transformed, and he was prepared to take the journey forward with courage and heart. The young man woke up feeling lighter than he had in months. He thought about the journey that had brought him here, the struggles, the loss of his job, the uncertainty, the fear, and the loneliness. All those moments had shaped him. They had tested his courage and values. He understood now that each challenge had a purpose. He walked to meet the elderly man as usual. The man greeted him with a warm smile. He explained new tasks that would expand the young man's experience. These tasks required creativity, problem-solving, and trust. The young man embraced them eagerly. He knew each task was a step toward building his future days past. Quickly, the young man worked with diligence. He faced challenges but learned to overcome them. He realized that mistakes were part of learning. His problem-solved made him stronger, more confident. He discovered patience and perseverance within himself. He also began to see the impact of his work on others. Colleagues and clients responded positively. They trusted him and sought his input. He had gained respect not by position but by integrity. His heart swelled with quiet pride. He knew that the journey mattered more than immediate reward. Evenings were filled with reflection. He thought about the day he had helped the elderly man in need, his fear he felt of losing his job, the uncertainty of his future. Now he understood that moment had been a turning point that had opened doors he never imagined. He realized that kindness could change destinies. The elderly man noticed the growth. He spoke to the young man about leadership and responsibility. He emphasized empathy and honesty as essential qualities. He explained that true success came from helping others and staying true to oneself. The young man absorbed the lessons carefully, felt that he was becoming a better person. Months passed. The young man took on more responsibilities. He managed projects and guided others. His confidence and skills grew daily. He saw the results of hard work and integrity. He began to understand how opportunity and preparation worked together. He also helped those in need. He remembered the gratitude of the elderly man and wanted to pass it forward. He assisted colleagues in difficulty and strangers when he could. Realized that the world could be changed by small acts repeated over time. He understood that kindness was not weakness, but strength. One day the elderly man called him aside. He explained that the young man had shown remarkable growth. He offered him a position to lead an important initiative. It was a step that required trust and leadership. The young man felt a surge of pride and responsibility. He accepted humbly and with determination. The young man reflected on his life. He thought about the dark days of hunger and fear. He remembered the moment he chose to help a stranger. That choice had cost him dearly at first, but it had also set him on a path of growth and opportunity. He understood now that kindness and courage could shape destiny. Continued to work diligently. Every task was approached with care and integrity. He became a role model for others. People respected him for his character and dedication. Realized that true achievement came from consistent effort and compassion. Even in moments of stress and difficulty, he remembered his values. He did not compromise integrity for comfort. He did not abandon empathy for efficiency. He understood that character built lasting success. He felt a sense of fulfillment that money alone could never give. He also maintained connection with those in need. He volunteered time and shared guidance. He mentored younger people facing challenges. He remembered the gratitude of the elderly man. He knew that giving back was part of life. The city around him felt different now. Where once he had felt invisible, he now felt part of a larger community. He saw people struggling and thriving. He understood that life was full of tests and opportunities. He approached each day with purpose and hope. He often thought about the path he had taken, how a single act of kindness had cost him his job, how fear and uncertainty had followed, how persistence and courage had opened unexpected doors. He realized that life rewarded those who acted with integrity. And hard as the sun set one evening, he walked Home slowly, he reflected on the lessons learned, on the power of kindness, on the strength found in helping others. He knew that challenges would continue, but he also knew he had the tools and mindset to face them. He entered his room and sat quietly. The journey of hardship and growth filled him with gratitude. He understood that destiny could change in ways unseen, that one decision could alter a lifetime, and that living with courage, kindness, and integrity was the greatest achievement. The young man smiled softly to himself. He had found his purpose. He discovered his strength. He had learned that even when life seemed unfair, acts of kindness could create new paths. Opportunities could arise from the most unexpected moments, and the world could be a place of hope if one chose to act with heart. He closed his eyes and felt a deep peace. The struggles of the past remained, but no longer defined him. He was ready for the future. He was ready to help others, was ready to live a life guided by courage, empathy, and integrity, and he knew that the act of kindness that had cost him so much had also given him everything. The young man woke up with a sense of determination. Had learned so much since meeting the elderly man. His work had grown more important and challenging him. Felt capable and ready to face anything. The lessons of integrity, empathy, and patience guided him every day. He walked through the city streets, observing life around him. He noticed people struggling and those who had little support. He felt a strong urge to help when he could. He remembered his own days of fear and uncertainty. Memory fueled his desire to make a difference. He continued to meet with the elderly man daily. Each meeting brought new insights and guidance. The elderly man taught him about managing people, solving problems, and making thoughtful decisions. He explained that leadership was not about authority, but about trust and respect. The young man listened and absorbed every word. He felt that each lesson would shape his future. He began to take on projects that required more responsibility. Coordinated efforts between different people and tasks. He solved unexpected challenges with creativity. He learned to stay calm under pressure. He discovered that patience and understanding often led to better outcomes than rushing or forcing decisions. Also helped those who were struggling in his community. He offered advice, assistance, and support whenever possible. People began to notice his dedication and character. They trusted him and sought his input on important matters. He realized that the respect of others was earned through consistent action. Evenings were spent reflecting on the day. He thought about the young man he had been before losing his job, the fear, the rejection, and the loneliness. He remembered the day he chose to help the elderly man. That choice had changed everything. It set him on a path of growth and purpose. He understood that life was full of tests. Some challenges were harsh and unexpected, but acting with courage and kindness could open new doors. He remembered the gratitude and trust of the elderly man. It reminded him that even small acts of goodness mattered. He continued to grow in skill and wisdom. He learned to plan carefully, delegate tasks, and motivate others. Discovered that leadership required humility and understanding. He saw how patience and empathy influenced results. He felt confident in his ability to face future challenges. The young man also found time to help his family. He supported relatives with finances and guidances. Shared the knowledge he had gained from the elderly man. He helped them see the value of effort, integrity, and kindness. He realized that success was not just personal, but also about lifting others. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. The young man felt a deep sense of purpose. He had a clear path and a vision for the future. He approached work with enthusiasm and focus. He inspired others by his example. He felt a connection with the community and people around him. He often thought about the world he had come from, the job he had lost, the struggles and fears that had once weighed him down. He understood that those experiences had been necessary. They had built resilience and empathy. They had prepared him for the opportunities he now had. The elderly man continued to mentor him. He emphasized the importance of ethical decisions and helping others. He explained that wealth and success were meaningless without integrity and compassion. The young man internalized these lessons. He understood that his true wealth was in knowledge, character, and the ability to positively influence others. He began to train and mentor younger people. He shared his experiences openly. He encouraged them to act with kindness, even when it seemed risky. He explained that integrity and empathy would guide them through difficult times. He felt fulfillment in watching others grow and succeed. Young man also focused on improving his own skills. He studied new methods and strategies. He practiced patience and careful decision-making. He sought feedback from the elderly man and implemented it. Diligently, he realized that continuous learning was essential for long-term growth. As he walked through the city, he noticed small acts of kindness around him, people helping one another in subtle ways. He smiled quietly to himself. He knew that these small actions created a ripple effect. They could influence lives in ways that were unseen at first. He often reflected on the choice that had started everything, helping a man who appeared weak and lost. That decision had cost him initially, but ultimately shaped his destiny. He realized that courage and compassion were powerful forces. They could overcome fear and transform life. He continued to take on greater responsibilities, handled complex projects with confidence and skill. He solved problems efficiently while maintaining fairness and understanding. His colleagues and community members respected and trusted him. He felt proud but humble. Even in moments of challenge and pressure, he remained true to his values. He never compromised on honesty or empathy. He understood that the right decisions were not always easy, but they were always worth making. He knew that life tested character and rewarded integrity. So young man also began to explore ways to give back more broadly. He organized small community initiatives. He helped provide guidance and resources to those in need. He worked to create opportunities for others who faced struggles similar to his own. He realized that helping others was as fulfilling as personal success. He reflected on his journey, often from fear and struggle to opportunity and struggle to opportunity and growth, from loss and uncertainty to trust and purpose. He understood that life was unpredictable but meaningful when guided by courage and kindness. He felt grateful for every lesson and every challenge. He continued to grow personally and professionally, developed confidence, skill, and wisdom. He strengthened relationships and built trust. He maintained humility and compassion. He understood that true success was measured by impact and character. Young man looked to the future with determination. He knew challenges would continue, but he felt prepared. He had the knowledge, the experience, and the moral compass to face them. He felt empowered to create positive change in his life and the lives of others. He ended each day with reflection and gratitude. He remembered the act of kindness that had started everything, helping the elderly man had seemed small and risky at the time, but it had set him on a path of growth, purpose, and fulfillment. He understood that every choice mattered. He felt ready to continue his journey, to embrace challenges with courage and empathy, help others whenever possible, to live a life guided by integrity and compassion. He understood that destiny could be shaped by actions, heart, and courage. The young man woke up early as usual. He felt a sense of purpose that he had not known before. Lessons he had learned guided him every day. Remembered the kindness that had started his journey, the guidance and trust of the elderly man. These struggles he had overcome, all of it, shaped who he had become. He walked through the city streets, observing life around him. He noticed people facing difficulties, people trying to survive. He felt a strong urge to help in ways he could. He remembered his own days of struggle, the fear and uncertainty that had weighed on him. He knew the value of small acts of kindness. He continued to meet with the elderly man. Each meeting brought new challenges and guidance, though. Elderly man shared wisdom about leadership, responsibility, and character. He explained that true success was measured by impact, integrity, and empathy. The young man listened carefully, absorbing every lesson. He felt that these teachings were shaping his future. He began taking on larger responsibilities, managed projects, and guided teams. He solved problems creatively and patiently. He learned to stay calm under pressure and make fair decisions. He realized that patience and understanding were as important as skill and effort. He also continued helping those in need. He offered guidance and support to people struggling in the community. He shared his knowledge and experience with younger people. He mentored them, teaching them the value of integrity and empathy. He understood that giving back was an essential part of life's. Evenings were spent reflecting on his journey. He remembered the day he had helped the elderly man, the fear and anxiety of losing his job, the uncertainty of his future. Now he understood that this single act of kindness had changed his life. It had set him on a path of growth, opportunity, and purpose. He realized that life was full of test challenges and difficulties would always come by acting with courage, integrity, and empathy could open unexpected doors. He had learned that small acts of goodness could create ripple effects far beyond what he could see. He continued to grow in skill, knowledge, and confidence. He became a leader in his work. Earning trust and respect, he remained humble and compassionate. Understanding that success was not just personal achievement, it was about helping others and making a positive impact, he took on mentorship roles. Guiding people who faced challenges similar to his own, he shared his experiences openly, encouraging them to act with kindness even when it seemed risky. Explained that integrity and empathy would guide them through difficult times. He felt fulfillment in watching others grow and succeed. He also sought to expand his own knowledge and skills. He studied strategies, improved decision-making, and practiced patience and careful planning. He sought feedback and implemented it diligently. Understood that continuous learning was essential for long-term growth. As he walked through the city, he noticed small acts of kindness all around, people helping each other in quiet, subtle ways. He smiled to himself, understanding that these small actions could influence lives and communities. Over time, he felt a connection to the world that he had not felt before. He often reflected on the moment that had started everything, helping the elderly man when it seemed risky and costly. That choice had led to loss at first, but ultimately opened doors to opportunity, learning, and growth. He understood now that courage and compassion could reshape destiny. He handled increasingly complex tasks with skill and integrity. He solved challenges efficiently while remaining fair and empathetic. Colleagues and community members respected him for his character and dedication. He felt proud but remained humble, knowing that his journey was ongoing. Even in moments of stress or challenge, he stayed true to his values. He never compromised on honesty or empathy. He understood that making the right choice was not always easy, but always worthwhile. He knew that life tested character and rewarded integrity. He began organizing community initiatives, helping provide guidance and resources for those in need, creating opportunities for people who faced struggles similar to his own past. He realized that helping others was as meaningful as personal success. He reflected on his journey frequently, from fear and struggle to opportunity and growth, from rejection and uncertainty to trust, mentorship, and purpose. He understood that life was unpredictable but meaningful when guided by courage and kindness. He felt gratitude for every challenge and every lesson learned. He continued to grow both personally and professionally, building confidence, skill, and wisdom, strengthening relationships, and earning trust, remaining humble and compassionate, understanding that true success was measured by impact, character, and the positive influence on others. The young man looked to the future with hope and determination. He knew challenges would continue, but he felt prepared. He had the experience, the knowledge, and the moral compass to face them. He felt empowered to create meaningful change in his life and the lives of others. He ended each day with reflection and gratitude, remembering the act of kindness that had set everything in motion. Helping the elderly man had seemed small and risky, yet it had set him on a path of transformation and purpose. He understood that every choice mattered. He felt ready to embrace life fully, to face challenges with courage and empathy, help others whenever possible, live a life guided by integrity, compassion, and heart. He knew that destiny could be shaped by acts of kindness, effort, and moral courage.